beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he uses all the power of the first beast, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, yea, maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which held my soul.
Hey, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. It's not the morning, it's the afternoon. We're studying today chapter 13 from the book of Revelation. We're going to begin by reading. Let's pick it up right at the beginning of the chapter because we're talking about a couple of beasts here. Let's refresh our memory. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, so that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So we left off at verse 11. And I was thinking about this morning, this other beast rising up out of the earth. He has 2 horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon. Now later on, we're given a clue as to what this beast represents, because it clearly says where the beast and the false prophet were cast. And the false prophet is often what we attribute to this second beast, which is actually the third beast, if you count the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit, which had no description other than to say that it was a beast. Now, and I think that's an easy connection to make, because empires and governments, that's what the beast motif is used to demonstrate what they are. Just like in the book of Daniel, where we had the rough goat and the ram representing, Persia, and the rough goat goes at the ram, and the little horn and all that, and the kings and all the machinations of politics. We know what that sort of means. And when they mention a beast that rises out of the bottomless pit, unless you want to make that the earth or the sea, which is sort of like, I don't know, it's kind of specific. So I look at that as sort of a clue as to the third undescribed beast. But it's been completely described in the other way, which they don't usually describe beasts, which is the inside of the thing. And also, it's a different kind of beast. A swarm of locusts is like a thing unto itself, right? Much like an empire. They move about, and who governs them? What is governing them? Actually, I think it's the temperature or something like that, or the proximity of a lot of other locusts, at least in nature. Anyways, so I think that calling it the false prophet means it's, what is a prophet? One who speaks for God. One who speaks for God. Like, this is what God said. This is how it is. This is what he says about what's going on. This is what he says about what's to come. This is how he says about what he's going to judge things. There's a lot of ways in which, but it's specifically, of course, when someone's saying, thus saith the Lord, that's a prophetic utterance, right? And that's the idea. It's not necessarily telling about the future. It is telling about, this is what God says. And it's just as, the future part is exciting because you think, oh, the future. But if you don't understand what's going on right now, you're not going to have any control over the future. Not that we do. But in a sense we do, in that how we behave definitely has an impact on our future. I may not be able to control the future of the whole world. I mean, certainly not little old me. But I can certainly control the future of my world and how I'm going to equip myself within it. I mean, what's my life going to look like in the end of all things? What will it have been all for? What was it all about? So it has two horns like a lamb. I mean, like the lamb, Jesus. I'm just throwing it out there for you. It's a Christian prophet. I said, the false prophet, of course, is a false prophet because there's an apostasy. And the false prophet, well, he's going to have two horns like a lamb, but he's going to speak like a dragon. He's going to have the trappings of Christianity with the soul of Satan. We've already got this going on, right? In more than one way. It's not just in churches that fly rainbow flags. It's in churches that get too excited about other flags, or any flag other than the flag of Jesus Christ. That is our primary flag. I love my country. I love the precepts we stand for. But it's like, just like all things, it can be corrupted by corruptible men. And they do corrupt it. And that's why the thing speaks, oh, it looks red, white, and blue. It's so beautiful. It looks American. Oh, the liberty. But it's like, what's coming out of it? Death and destruction, wickedness and heathen, all those things. So, like I said, it also has two horns, which is interesting. As you could say, two factions. There could be the godless faction of Christianity, because they are kind of an offspring of Christianity in a way. Because it's love and tolerate. And I certainly believe in loving people and tolerating them. But that's being exploited, where it's not just, it's like, oh, if you want to prove your love, you're going to celebrate. And that's true. It's not that I love it on its own merits. I do not. I do not love sin in any form. I pity sinners, and I forgive them as the Lord led us to do. When he forgave the woman taken in adultery. That was a serious sin, a sexual death penalty sin. And I put all those sexual sins in that category, as far as like, go and sin no more. I believe in live and let live. People make mistakes. I certainly have. Anyways, but there's a Christian aspect of it that's not quite Christian. It's like, and it always comes down to that. It's like people, well, whatever. I'm not trying to get eloquent about what it is right now, but like, look at that. That is a false Christianity. If the beast represents a government, an empire, the second beast, if it's a false prophet, it represents a sort of religious empire. It may be summated as the false prophet, like the other thing is called the beast, but it has a particular shape. The beast has the dragon's shape. The false prophet doesn't have the dragon's shape. It looks like a lamb. but the things that come out of its mouth are satanic. They speak, and that does not necessarily mean it's going to be obviously satanic. I do think it will be morally satanic, because I think that's what Satan always does. Like I said, you see Christians cheering for the destruction of the people in Gaza. That's so perverse. You know what I mean? It's like, because a lot, those are Christian people in there, but as a Christian, I support it. As a Christian, I support the war here and the war there. What are you talking about as a Christian? Yeah, I used to do that too, but I think now it's kind of foolish. It makes no sense. I support the war of the Spirit. And if we waged that war, we'd keep winning. And we always have won that way. Like the war, that's how all the Christian victories ever came, was through persuading men. Not through, by killing, we never persuaded the Muslims by making war on them. And why should we? Our religion doesn't teach us to do that. And you say, well, their religion does. Yeah, so what's our excuse? And it's like, I'm not so worried about others. It's like, I know God is in control. You know, you don't have faith in the way that Christ taught us to live. Anyways, one of the things that I thought was interesting about this as I read it, and I had a different thought, you know, he causes them to worship the first beast, which is deadly wound was sealed. We'll touch on that a little more later. But I want to talk about this great wonders part. He maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. That's the kind of the way, you know, the false prophet does that, which is interesting, because that's exactly what Peter, and maybe not Peter, but several of his disciples, when there was a city that did not receive Christ, they didn't want to hear what he had to say. And they said, should we call down fire from heaven as Elijah did? Because they heard you not? Because they did not receive you? Should we do that? Is that what we should do? And he said, you don't know what spirit you are of. And, well, what spirit were they of? Well, the spirit of the false prophet. You know, and it's like, and what do we do except provide Israel with the instruments of bringing fire down from heaven? Ooh, look at the beast. Isn't he wonderful? He's so powerful. He brings fire from heaven. Can he bring fire out of his mouth? Huh? And I think, as far as like when I see, you know, if you think about it, who invented fire from heaven? The nuclear bomb. Who brought the nuclear bomb into being? Well, that was America. Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, well, there was, you know, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, all that's wonderful. The Declaration of Independence, delightful. The people of the land. But this powerful empire has been hijacked for evil. And that's quite a pity, because it could have been used for so much good. Or so we could, yeah, well, because that's the thing, is people, that's what tempts people to power, is they think, oh, all the good I can do with the power. Well, put me in charge. I'll do good. I wish I could. That's why I don't even ask donations, because it's like, don't give me more power than I have. I already got enough temptation to sort out. Not that I don't need money, but it's like, you know, I'm not here with my hand out. Certainly not for this. Spake as a dragon, because I enjoy this. We did that. But he maketh fire. Oftentimes I used to make a big deal about this being lightning, perhaps. Like Satan comes and he snaps his fingers and makes lightning come down from heaven. I don't know. But the kind of spirit that's impressed by destruction. You know, when he said, you know not what spirit you're of bringing fire from heaven. It's fun that's one of the powers they have. Now, I'm not saying it just has to be bombs and stuff like that. Of course not. I'm just saying that's another way of looking at it. That's in a smaller way. And you see the way being able to bring fire from heaven really gets under some people's skin. They start to gets right up to their head, and they start getting really puffed up and thinking they can do whatever they want. And even in the name of God. Oh, we'll clear out this, we'll give them lots of, you know, how many thousand of pounds bombs? I don't know. I forget how heavy they are. 4,000 pounds, whatever, just to blow up a whole block of people. Clear the way. I mean, it's so maniacally, it's just, it's unbelievable. Especially because, like I said, Christian people just mindlessly cheering it on. And that tells me, it's like, okay, I know what Antichrist could do easily to sweep these people off their feet. You know? Not much, you know, we look at Roman times and say, oh, how brutal. They had slaves, and they had a Colosseum where they killed people for their entertainment. Yeah. We're getting there, don't worry. We're getting there. So he causes the earth to, not that we have to go there, but it's like, I see where they'd like to go. His deadly wound was healed. He does great wonders, so he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth and the side of men. We talked about the deadly wound, the potentials of that, so I don't think we have to go over it again. Again, if you're talking about an empire or a government system that's being personified as a beast, some sort of wound is obviously some kind of deadly blow to their power. That's why I said, like, hey, it's getting late in the day here. Watch what happens with NATO. I'm not saying that's anything except just a type. If it's the anti-type, it will lead into the events that Revelation speaks of. And they'll be recognizable because we have the seal of God in our foreheads. So we'll know, yeah, that's the first trump. Or at least maybe that's the first trump. Oh, that's definitely the second. See, because I do think the trumpets have to give us a sound that makes sense. As Paul said, if a trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who shall prepare themselves to battle? Just like revelry or the charge, when they sound with the bugle, the idea was to communicate clearly on the battlefield what the intention of the general was. And the Lord intends to use us as his own army to speak against those things, against the false prophets. There will be a system arise of Christianity, which is false Christianity, it's a lie Christianity, headed up by the devil, and it will cause everyone to join into this government system, and that's the idea. It's in the name of Christ, but definitely not in the voice of Christ. It's Christendom. There's still all these nations with churches everywhere. Loaded with lots of churches, lots of spires like horns coming up out of the land. But the thing that it speaks, that come out of the pulpit, the prophets, the mouth of the prophets, no. And like I said, what could be more? I don't know. But even if this wasn't it, it gives me a vision of like the insidiousness of how religion can overtake, or how government can use religion to manipulate people. Yes. But that'd be true of people are going to have a religious belief, and they will use whatever they can to manipulate people ultimately. Whether it's religion or there are other kinds of beliefs. I saw in the pandemic how science could easily substitute for many people in the stead of religion, where they're not asking serious critical questions anymore. They're just doing what they're told. But the false Christianity, the false Christian system, because I don't think the false prophet any more than the beast is necessarily an individual. Now, there are individuals within that system who personify the system, such as the dragon himself, who I think is the false Christ. And in some ways in Revelation, the awesome sort of mystery is the false Christ is a subtext. And not, because like we see beasts. And clearly when it says it's a beast, that makes me go back to Daniel, and I do not think of then the whole thing as one individual, though the beast looks almost exactly like that great red dragon. But the great red dragon is not a loner. He has his angels. He has his angels that are cast out with him. And so when he comes to the earth, he will also have something that arises out of the earth and not out of the sea. The sea is almost like the world, the maritimes. Who's the maritime superpower? What's the beast in the sea, right? But the beast out of the earth, then again, to me, that's not rising out of it's rising out of something else. While the sea can be symbolic of multitudes and peoples and nations and tongues, yes, but it is in a political sense. I think the earth is more in a grassroots sense, not a political so much as from among the people and among their beliefs. It's in a different sense, but it's always, of course, this has to do with human beings, whether it's from the sea and the earth. It's just slightly different symbolic references. Because there's a certain different symbolic feeling when you have it coming up out of the earth instead of out of the sea. And this thing comes up out of the earth. It is a religious system, and it has prophets in it, and they will make fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now that could be personally done through the power of Satan himself. It could be delegated powers to his underlings that are part of bringing people into this religious system, which looks like Christianity, which tells itself it is Christianity, which has Christian symbolism and Christian, probably some Christian doctrine. certainly whatever is convenient, but will be ultimately corrupted by the mouth of Satan, whose spirit will speak through them at the very least. Like I said, I do think there has to be a false Christ in the midst of all of this. But, it could just be a false system. It just don't have that power. It says they're going to worship the dragon. Quite specifically. When it says the dragon, that old serpent called Satan and the devil, that to me gets so personal. And the fact that it talks about him being cast out, which I do take as a yet-to-happen event, just as I consider the gap between Christ's departure. They thought he was going to come back in a few weeks with the angels, maybe in a day or so, to restore the kingdom to Israel. But no, he just gone, and he was, we're all like, hey, Jesus, when you coming back? And just like the scriptures, it's to give a little plausible deniability, or maybe he's never coming back. And then when the false Christ shows up, it's like, well, he's back. But no, it's not him. It's the final test for the final generation, for those who have been easy on their lees for far too long. I'll tell you, how much blood can be shed in the name of us before we have to pay for it? How ignorant can we be, and for how long? Like I said, this doesn't have to be the end of the world for it to be a major judgment on this country and what we've done. I mean, I haven't done it, but hey, I'm in the country that's doing it, and you don't think the blowback can blow back right in my face? Ask the people upon whom the World Trade Center fell. Do you think they were especially great American sinners? You don't think there were American Christians among them? Of course there were. We'll all die together. That's like, I refer back to the Tower of Siloam, what Jesus said. And he said, nay, and except you believe, except you repent, you will all in like manner perish, is what he said. Not all, but he said, you shall in like manner perish if you repent not. Repentance is important. Like I said, our faith, when we continue in sin, it's a manifest token of unbelief. It is. It's a manifest token of unbelief. Well, I just made a mistake. Well, that's different. It's just a mistake. That means you're imperfect. But we can't just go about serving Satan and expect that to be cool with Christ. Oh, no. Just like I said, I'd almost like to ask someone who believes in faith alone, say, well, can you worship the image of the beast? Oh, I won't be here. No. That's not I won't buy that. So he will deceive them on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had to do in the power of the beast. I want to say, even in the lesser example of what's going on in our world, the fire we bring is, of course, conventional. It's all scientifically explained, right? It's bombs. Okay, it's bombs. It's like, yeah, it is bombs that we have made by our own devising. But it is indeed fire from heaven. So it's kind of an interesting, not that it fulfills the prophecy. I'm not saying that, because I think that's a miracle. Though, in a sense, isn't our modern technology, we take it for granted, but the ancients would have thought it quite miraculous. That you could be just sleeping in your bed and suddenly a fireball from the sky. That's the kind of stuff that only happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. But now man can rain what is almost godlike judgment. And it causes some people to marvel and think well, who can stop this? This is the way it should be. Not should be, or just, hey, American power, rah, rah. We're just going to drop bombs on people. Or anybody who does this, who uses these threats of violence to control and to rob and to destroy. It's like the world can be deceived in thinking well, we just got to put up with that. We got to put up with people bringing fire from heaven and killing people. Hey, God does it, and they're kind of like God, aren't they? They can do whatever they want. In Psalm 82, they point out, people often point out, it's well, it isn't saying that men are gods in Psalm 82. You're right. It's saying the men who are judges are sitting in the place of God. Yeah, you judges of the earth, you government leaders, you sit in the place of God. You bear not the sword in vain. You better be careful how you use that, because you will be judged by the judge. Judgment begins first at the house of God, and also those that play God. They go on even, well, I don't know if they go first, because the first are the last, and the last are first, right? So he deceives them, this system of religious belief, which is also personified in the great whore. It's a different aspect of it. But the false prophet creates the great whore by deceiving them. And I can see how, my whole life, I've felt like the world is ripe for deception, and of course we are. I watched it happen during the pandemic. And we undoubt, I feel like I'm watching it happen with these wars. I'm completely watching it happen with these wars. It's total deception, the justifications for these things. They lie. It's obscene. It makes fire come down from heaven on the earth inside of men, deceiveth them. I do believe in that usually myself as this ultimate miracle power of Satan calling down fire from the sky, but maybe that's just not entirely necessary. I don't know. Like I said, you think for yourself. I like to keep my mind open to all the possibilities. Though I certainly have a strong feeling of one over the other, that doesn't mean I'm going to be like, oh, I won't hear another. If someone had a different idea, I'm always glad to hear it. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a wound by a sword and did live. So the power of this religious system, it says the trusts in fire from heaven and such things, to when people don't agree with them, hey, Jesus, they didn't receive you. Should we call down fire? That's the spirit. They're not like us. They don't believe like us. Let's burn them down. We can never be reconciled with the Muslims. We gotta bomb them to smithereens. We gotta blow them off the face of the earth. That's the spirit of Christ. You don't know what spirit you're of. The fire that we breathe comes out of our mouths. We who have the spirit. If you don't have the spirit, you gotta rely on things like fire from heaven. You always gotta look to heaven because you don't have heaven within. If a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him and make our mansion with him. It says abode there, but it's the exact same word as mansion in verse 2 or whatever of John 14. Oh, in my house are many mansions. We're going to heaven. They don't even understand that passage. They literally do not understand that passage. They preach some mythology of, they want McMansions in heaven and nonstop pastries. And they might as well why not just add in the virgins? Oh, but we know in Christian heaven you get to eat all you want, but there's no sex, right? So you better get all you can now while the forgiven's easy and grace may abound. Because we're in the age of grace when all that matters is what you think. Faith alone is dead. Like I said, unless you got your hands pinned to a cross and Jesus is there and he decides to go, I'm going to forgive you right now. He can forgive a lot, and that's up to him. That's why I don't go around condemning people, but I've seen him condemn. Ask Ananias and Sapphira. Ask Judas. We can go too far, and we shouldn't. I like I said, I know that every idle word I will have to give account, and that's the level of analysis I'm going at, trying to reform my life. If only, and not that is what we need to do for salvation. What we need to do is have faith, but faith puts you on this certain path. Some people think faith is just a set of beliefs which they can argue over. Like these are the things we believe. That's the faith. But it's like, but how does that, believing those things, how does that impact what you do? It's like, well, I just trust that Christ forgives all my sins. He does. But that doesn't mean, but you keep doing them. And some of them, are sins and you do them anyways. Well, how can that be? How can these things be? No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or despise the one and cling to the other. So he deceives them by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, meaning in front of the whole world, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. And again, there were a couple ways I was thinking about this idea, the image of the beast, which was wounded by sword and did live. I think about isn't that what we're trying to do with our system of government? We're like, not necessarily that we're trying to bring American freedom everywhere, which to me sounded like a good idea, as far as instilling that we're going to go around the world and we're going to treat everybody like citizens of America, that they have rights, right? Everyone's got the right to speech. Everyone's got the right to live, to arm themselves. Everyone's got the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what I believe. Every man. All men are created equal. But some people are like, no, that stops at the water's edge. It's like, what? It's like, to me, that's like, okay, I know that's technically legally right, but you're going down the devil's path as far as when you talk about being some sort of influence in the world. If you're going to be an influence in the world that regards not people's rights, but only thinks of its own power, they want to, like you think about it. It's like when we bring NATO to a new country, we want them to have the same kind of arms as us. We want them to integrate into our military system, become part of the beast. I'm just saying of just that beast. There are many beasts. How do beasts work? And so I watch how they work, how even this one works, even if this isn't the final beast. It's a beast. It's like going out into nature and observe, like David Attenborough, and you observe, look at the nature. They're doing these things. And like you see their nature and you watch them. It repeats over and over and over. That's why we go back to Babylon. That's why we go back to Assyria. That's why we go back to Persia and the Greeks. Because we can observe the way those empires behaved, and it will match up with the end empire. And the Romans also. That's why we're like, Revelation sounds a lot like Rome. Yeah, and like every empire. It's drawing from all the Old Testament examples. So because of the power they're able to wield, people are deceived into thinking that they should go along with these things, that they should bow before them, that they should be obedient to them, that they should also replicate them. Let's do, we'll take the American way here, and we'll take the American way there, whatever that represents. Like I said, I thought it represented something positive, but it doesn't. It's like, no, we stage coups. We make sure our corporations get in there to get the resources. We make a lot of profits. We pay off their leaders. The people live in squalor. And we get rich off of it. That's what we're doing in a lot of cases. Yeah, that is. Like when we overthrew the Iranians elected leader years ago. That's when it started after World War II. We started overthrowing the governments of all these countries. We treated their democratic decisions like they didn't matter. We didn't act like all men are created equal. We didn't bring that. We didn't make an image to that, which would have been nice because it was an image of our Creator. We are endowed by our Creator. We should have remembered that. That was the image which we should bear about the world. Maybe not create, because it's like, again, but in the sense of that's, we are after the same image. We are created in Him. We should bear the image of Christ throughout the world. The idea that men are equal. Yeah, the Good Samaritan, to treat people right. Not to make an image to a beast of power and destruction. We'll make everyone like us. We'll sell our military hardware to Ukraine. We'll sell our military hardware to the Lithuanians. We'll sell our military hardware to Japan. We'll sell our military. We can't even build that much military hardware. Thank God. That's why I'm a little like, well, I'm going to watch this beast go down. If it goes down and comes up again, that might be a sign of something. If it goes down and comes up again and there's fire from the sky, in a little more of a, not just your bombs and stuff like, you shouldn't be impressed by these kind of fires from the sky. Right? But it could also be, like I said, if these could be miraculous. It says they're miracles. Like I said, but they are miracles of science and technology. We understand how to do these things. We understand how God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone. They've checked it out archaeologically. They destroyed it with fire and brimstone. It's like, yeah, from the sky, an airburst. It's like, well, I can explain that scientifically. Yes, and God set it all in motion from the beginning. You're going to look up. You're not going to find Him because He wants it plausible that, hey, I'm not here. This isn't a benevolent surveillance reality. You're not being watched. You can do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. We're just going to see. You just do as you please and see what happens. And so you must worship the image of the beast. And you see that in a sense, like when I look at like the liberalism that we're trying to promote around the world, and the way it's like I said, you have to celebrate it. You don't have to. It's not mandatory yet. But if you are like in media, if you work in media, if you don't wave the rainbow flag and smile and say you love that, if you even say a mild like negative thing, I'm pretty sure you're not going to have a job. If you say, I think what they do is wrong or whatever, it's like, I'm just saying, it's like, I don't believe in hate either. And, I think I had to couch I don't. I've always preached that. I don't preach that you hate them. I preach that you forgive, go and sin no more. But I do think, like, I'm more in the spirit. I do believe, like, Hey, I'd be glad if we didn't post the 10 Commandments on the courthouse lawn and we didn't have pride parades either. That we don't need to parade everything that is necessarily private. We could talk about it, but like I said, there are certain public places where it's like, I don't want the cross in front of the courthouse as if Jesus sanctifies what goes on in that courthouse necessarily, or to give it like the trappings of like Moses. Oh, it's like Moses here, we better obey. I don't think so. No more do I want it to be some sort of place of proselytizing perversion in the public square. It's no place for that. No, I mean, we can discuss, like I said, the words. Like I said, but we got to establish these symbols and point up our little tents and all that stuff. I don't know. I'm not big about that. Peter wanted to build those tents. I get it. They always want to erect tents and memorials and all kinds of things like to show people. It's like, it's lazy. Why don't you live it? So that people ask you, what is the reason of the hope that you have inside you? Why do you believe? As opposed to like having to be like, well, you better believe. Hey, you better believe. Right. I agree. But whatever happens with this empire, it will be wounded and it will come and it will be saved from its seeming destruction. Like I said, we're about to have a fall because of our pride and all that, so we can see what happens after that. Otherwise, then we'll be looking for something in the future. Right? Because there's always rise and fall of empires. But whenever you have one rise up like this, it's like it's worth noting. I didn't really recognize it for most of my life. It took most of my life to actually see all that. To seek the Lord. The image of the beast speaks and causes as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Now, you can take a quite literal image of that. And I'm sure in the vision that maybe that's even what he saw. Like literally an image, like a talking statue or something. Or again, what does it mean the image of the beast should speak? Also notice the religion gives power to give life to the image of the beast, I believe. He has power to do the miracles in the sight of in the sight of the whole world, the world system, the everything that's under the empire, at least, right? Well, that empire, I believe, ultimately does go worldwide. We're trying to go worldwide, but we are not worldwide. And we're being stopped. And so this little attempt at world domination, I don't think is going to succeed. But also that could be, when that happens, that moment of crisis becomes an opportunity for some sort of deadly wound to that thing to cause it to then morph into something worse. I mean, like the use of nuclear weapons and stuff like that. When they start falling, they can then try to raise themselves up and to heal their wounds with fire from heaven and such things, potentially. God, I hope not. Because I don't think that's how the story really ends up with nuclear war. I feel like the war is not going to be the end of the world, but rather the cataclysmic events that will befall us from the heavens. And though while our stuff from the heavens is quite impressive and would definitely create a world much depopulated of people, it would not truly be the end of the world. Humans would definitely survive nuclear war. It's just civilization would not. And then maybe Christ could come in another 1,000 years or two. He'd definitely have to wait a bit because there wouldn't be much people to come back to judge against. So whatever. Because of the nuclear holocaust. But there was during the Black Death, like a third of people were killed, I think, or something like that in Europe, or a quarter. Some big number. I don't know if it was the Black Death or the bubonic plague, but one of those. A lot of people have died. There have been, you look at the world's population, there's a big dip right about there. And things like that happen. That's part of history, too. There should be earthquakes in diverse places, famines, troubles. Those things are normal par for the course. The end is a little different, a little more intense. A lot more intense is what I would say. So, what would an image of a beast speaking be? Well, one of the raps against idols is that they don't speak or talk. You know what I mean? They don't have any life. Which is interesting because this image has the ability to speak. That's not usual. And he's been, usually I say like Satan doesn't have the power to give life. I very often say he can't make alive. But he can make this beast alive and this image of the beast alive. And like I said, this to me is like, what is an image of the beast? Is it the beast itself? No. It's an image of the beast. And I think that's like, when I think about image, it makes me think about politicians and their images. Like, oh, my public persona, my image. And so an image of the beast could also be the idea of a political narrative. It's an image created in the likeness of the beast that is like not really the beast, right? Just like this, it's lying, it's telling all this BS, and it's spinning a narrative. And they worship that narrative. You know what I mean? They believe in it. Even though that's not reality, even though it's just a bunch of lies, that is an idea behind the image of the beast that I really like. As far as it being like a political narrative of like what is going on. And if you don't buy into that political narrative, if you don't buy into that, like I say, if you don't buy into their agenda, that's another idea of the image of the beast. We'll have a plan to bring about, like the Soviets always had these like 5-year plans and all these plans. It's just like the image of the beast. Like, we will fix everything and so this way, and we're going to do this. And so there's going to be like this laying out of what it's going to look like. Same thing, America does the same thing. We try to give life to that image of ourselves, which we project to the rest of the world. Oh, we're here to support democracy and freedom and blah, blah, blah. We say, we create this image of ourselves, which is false, which we demand people obey as if it was God, as if it was truth. I'm just saying, just like I talked about masks not being the mark of the beast, but that it's a type of mark of the beast. Same thing with this other part. This image of the beast is very much like narratives, like the image of the pandemic. There's a false image of the pandemic that's not true, spun up for people to believe in and to be obedient to and to do the works of and to serve. The police, they forsook their oaths of office in order to carry out illegal orders. Churches shut their doors in contradiction to their constitutional rights and their God-given rights to decide how they're going to confront death. If death is loosed in the world, I don't think it's their right to tell me I can't face it down. Oh, for your safety, for your safety. No, because then they'll have power over you for whatever reason. They get to decide what's safe for me. I'm an adult. We're the experts. I don't trust you experts. You line your pockets with cash far too frequently. Can't be trusted. I don't trust a scientist any more than I trust a pastor or a priest. Maybe less, because their line of work is often even more lucrative, working in the pharmaceutical industry and partnering with them to come up with drugs that everybody needs and everybody wants, but do death and destruction with awful side effects. And it's like, oh, you can lose weight, poisoning us left and right for their profit. I don't trust any of these people. I don't trust this. I don't. I mean, like I said, I trust in the Lord. You did, in that way, we just have to kind of live with all the treachery and villainy that's in our world. We just have to try. We have to walk in the midst of it. Understand? It's like, hey, a tower can fall on me, but also I might drink poison and not die because the Lord is with me. I don't do it on purpose. Okay, so yeah, and he causes that, if you're not obedient to the narrative, ultimately, you see how angry they get, right? And when it gets down to, when it's a religion and it's Christianity, it's a brutal Christianity that's like looking like Christianity, the horror, what does she got in her cup? All the blood of saints, man. She's drunk with it. She's drunk with it. Because they adore, there's nothing they love. They love death and violence. So he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. And also, like it says, it gives them the sense of like, people have frustration. They want to get back to their normal lives. They will sell their souls for a piece of bread. Not for a piece of bread, for a piece of toilet paper. Not entirely, right? But what I'm saying is like, when it gets down to it, When the question is worship or die, it becomes, the choice for many is going to be quite easy. Well, so even if they don't believe, they'll worship him. I said that they will. That was, it would have happened with Jesus, except God had hidden the wisdom from them. That's what he said in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We speak the wisdom of God, which he hath hidden in a mystery, which none of the princes of this world knew. For if they had known it, they would not have crucified the Lord. They would not have crucified him if they had had this wisdom. But they have the wisdom when it comes to the Antichrist. They're like, okay, for my own good, I'll just bow the knee. I'll just say what I got to say. I'll just take the mark of the beast. Where do you want it? I'll have it on both. I don't care. It's just a mark. It doesn't affect what I think in my head. But what you're already thinking in your head has already condemned you. Like I said, very much like in the pandemic, there was a restriction on your ability to engage in commerce without having your sign of obedience, basically. It was very difficult to go anywhere without this frivolous attachment, which did nothing to do anything. And in fact, that was the first thing that that Dr. Fauci had said, was that, no, you don't need a mask. Then later on, he claimed he was lying. I think he lied twice in that sentence. He told the truth the first time, but for reasons that were devious. And then he told a lie. I don't know if he even believes either or cares, actually. I think he'll say that, just all of that, I think, makes me think that he would say whatever he thought was expedient to bring about the ends they were trying to bring about. And I think that that's pretty much what you'll get in the end times. Whatever lie needs to be told, whatever it will be that can seduce you, that's what they will try to use. Whatever they can get against you as leverage. That's one of the reasons, like, I want to live an upright life. Because the enemy, he is the accuser of our brethren. And if you don't think he's going to accuse you of what you've done, you better get ready, because he certainly will. He'll accuse you, maybe even claim to be the one who, and Jesus forgive you. And how dare you not bow down and worship our Savior? See, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know how you can have all this false church, this great apostasy, without the one, that man of sin, this personification of the whole thing, the center of the whole thing, the son of destruction, Apollyon, the angel of the bottomless pit. That's why I identify. Could it be just a man? I don't know. But I definitely, if it was a man, you'd know it. All right, I'm going to go on. Okay, so it says that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Said, I wonder about that mark being, because we know it, we say, okay, is it literally a tattoo? 666, is that what it is? I used to have a pastor that said, oh, they could tattoo that all over your body and it wouldn't make a difference because of what you have in your heart or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't think the mark of the beast is a 666 tattoo. We've talked about this before. There's the seal of God. A seal is meant to preserve, to hold in, to show authority. A mark is a little different. People are marked for different reasons. A mark is an indication of maybe service. Someone's received a mark based on what they've done, like Cain, who received a mark after killing his brother Abel. And that was so that no one would harm him. Interestingly, right? Because the idea here is people take this mark to avoid being harmed. They receive the mark of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now, I used to think that was perhaps like a sort of a loophole, that if you know the number of the beast or the name of the beast, if you know his name, you could sort of go under the radar or something. Like somehow this knowledge would allow you to get away. And certainly I don't discount the idea that we will be able to survive the time of the mark of the beast because we have the seal of God in our foreheads. And it already said they cannot do anything to us. They cannot hurt us. Now, ultimately, when the end of things come, when it comes down to the very end, he will overcome the saints and kill them. But not all. And that's clear from what Paul said, that we shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. And so when it comes down to it at the very end, yes, some of God's witnesses will be destroyed, or killed, not destroyed. They will be killed, but after 3 days and a half, they will rise from the dead. So up to that point, they managed to survive. And so, we can't put our comfort in this first world existence ahead of the truth. When you're confronted with Antichrist, you can't just bow the knee to him and think like, well, my faith will carry me. I really believe in Jesus, and I know that God raised him from the dead. Like I said, Ananias and Sapphira did so much as lie to the Holy Spirit. I can't be someone who, it'd be one thing if I was just a total ignorant person who was blind. I have definitely more hope for pity for those who blindly take this. Because like I said, I know people went along with the masking during the pandemic who also knew it wasn't real. It wasn't truth. So the buy or sell, that just means officially. There's always black markets and stuff. The point is that the mark of the beast causes it so that you can't go through normal channels for buying and selling. People are going to be like, well, where's your mark? They won't want to deal with you. Just like with the mask. There were some places where my wife got thrown out because they would not allow her in there. She didn't have her mask on. It wasn't like Walmart where you could kind of go through, and if you had the guts for it and you didn't care about people giving you sideways looks, you could go to Walmart without a mask on. They weren't going to call the cops as long as you weren't doing anything crazy. At least not in my county. And but there were other places in the same county, in the same town, where it's like they'd call the cops and the cops would come and they'll pull you out. I saved my wife that trouble, but came and kind of rescued her. But I'm just saying, there will be people, because they will be true believers in this, they will enforce the mark. And there'll be enough true believers in this to enforce it, even on those who aren't really the true believers. Look at Nazi Germany, how people were all carried away in you're not Sieg Heiling. That's almost like the mark of the beast for them. Like to wear the insignia and to show your pride in their regime. These are types. That's why at the time people thought maybe Hitler was Antichrist. That's what they thought. Some people. Even back, they had other people who were. I remember when they were thinking Reagan was Antichrist. Antichrist ultimately is an individual. I believe it is also a spirit in the world. Even now there are many Antichrists, as it's written. And ultimately there is an ultimate Antichrist who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And so if we're going to take his mark in our forehead, that's the idea of we believe in him. This is a more symbolic interpretation. Like we believe in the beast. And and of course the hands being we serve him. We do his works. The seal is only in your forehead because it is not something that your hands need to be sealed. Because when your heart is made right, out of the, Jesus said, nothing going into a man can defile him, but only that which comes out of him. For out of the heart proceeds all the murders, fornications, the adulteries, and the lusts that men will do. It's out of the heart that these things proceed. So if we have God's seal on us, our works will follow after. They're a natural consequence of faith. True faith produces works. Whereas with the mark of the beast, you could just have it on your hands, meaning you might not really believe it. Maybe you just do what he says. I don't believe in any of this stuff. I'm just going to get by. I'll just go along with evil because I just want my toilet paper and my milk. I just want to keep living my life. What's so wrong with that? Well, they're murdering other people. How about that? All it takes for evil men to get away with it is for good men to sit silent. So, the name of the beast or the number of his name. You got to have the name of the beast or the number of his name. So it's the mark, the name, or the number. So it's almost like three things. And I'm not sure exactly how to... Now, when I think if I have the name of Christ, that means his name is upon me. You know what I mean? And maybe that's enough. Are you a Satan? Are you a anti-Christian? Well, of course I'm an anti-Christian. That's good enough. Okay, come on. Even if you don't have the mark. As long as you just affirm it with your lips, you could probably get away with it with just the name of the beast or the number of his name. It says 666. Now, I always thought that, like, look at, who has the number of the beast? Do they have the number of the beast? You know, do those who are deceived by him, who receive his mark, do they have his number? You know what I mean? He causes them to receive a mark in their hands and their foreheads because of what they're believing and doing. That's why the way I interpret the right hand or the forehead. And that no man could by himself save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. They give the number 666. So everyone in the world knows that the number of the beast is 666. So how's that going to work? Who hasn't heard of this 666? I mean, there's presumably some people in the far-flung corners of the world, but I mean, in all of Christendom, everyone knows the number of the beast, right? I always thought it was interesting, the idea of having someone's number. And I wonder if that came from this. I've got your number. I know who you... And what does that mean? What does it mean to have someone's number? What do we mean that when we use that as a figure of speech? We mean, oh, I see what you're doing. I see what you're up to. I know what your scheme is, right? I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. And so I still look at that, having the number. It doesn't mean having the number printed on you, though I wouldn't want that either. But it means to know what the nature of this man truly is. They're worshiping him as God. To knowing the number of the beast. What is that number? It is the satanic number, 666. The number that is, it's like one less from 7. It's not that 777 that represents the divine perfection. It's the 666. It's a man's number. It speaks to man's depravity, to man's shortcomings, to man's failings. And that's embedded also, you go back to Daniel, into the image of Nebuchadnezzar's image of 6 cubits and the 6 things and the 6 instruments. The 666. It's going back to that man. And what that pointed back to Babylon, that 6-6. It does. And of course, Mystery Babylon. And then there's the lamentation against the king of Babylon in chapter 14. Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? Is this the man that made the earth to tremble? Who said in his heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I'm going to sit in the throne of God. I'm going to show everyone that I'm God. That's the spirit of the man whose number is 666. It goes back to Babel because he was like, I am the greatest king ever. No, you're not. That's Jesus. He's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But there's going to come one who's going to make a go for it. You know, president isn't quite it. King isn't quite it. Emperor isn't quite it. It's emperor of emperors, Antichrist of Antichrist, beast of beasts. And his number. And so that always gave me hope, like thinking like, well, I know I got his number. Yeah, so I'm not going to worry about buying or selling. I'll make do. just like in the pandemic, maybe people give me some sideways looks and but they can't kill me. Only, maybe they can. Well, whatever. Then I'll die for the truth. Or maybe I'll escape like Jesus did, They can't get me till it's my time. That's my comfort. Can't get me till I'm time. And then it's fun because as long as we're doing God's will, there's a good chance he's going to preserve us miraculously, even in the most dire situations. That's what he did with his disciples in the past. I expect him to do the same in the end times. If we keep faith with him, he will be faithful to us. And he will deliver us from our enemies and not allow them to to harm a hair of our head until such time comes as we lay our lives down according to his will. They don't take our lives, we lay them down. We say, okay, go ahead. Now your time. Have at it, buddy. See what it gets you. So let's see, do we have anything else to add to this beast, the second beast? It gave life to the image of the beast. We're going to see some of the comments that were made here. Oh boy, here, let's see. They already, I'm not sure what appeared. March 6, 2021, COVID-19 was the first mark. We do. The rapture is this Sunday, August 4th. Well, you know what? We'll find out if that's a false prophecy. The rapture itself is a false prophecy, right from the throne of Satan, made to let people think that they will not have to face the trials to come. When we talked about 2 Thessalonians, he was quite clear there when he says, I beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord and by our gathering together unto him, that day shall not come. You should not be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter from us, as though the day of Christ is at hand. For that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sits in the temple of God, making a show of himself that he is God. And he is the one who with his angels shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and make war against the saints, make war against the two witnesses, the candlesticks, which are the churches, which Christ preserves, and which are not taken away out of their places and made into a whore in that great apostasy that the Apostle Paul warned us was coming. A great apostasy is coming. When the Antichrist appears and no rapture has come, he will attempt to try to seduce the world into worshiping him and to convince them that he is the Lord Jesus. That's why the beast has two horns like a lamb. But there will be no rapture. The rapture is just a parasitic doctrine that they have split off from the resurrection. The resurrection happens at the seventh trump. That's why Paul says in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye at the last trump in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. That's also why in 2 Thessalonians he warns that it won't happen until after the man of sin appears and also the apostasy. And even then, we will give our testimony. God will not rely on some 90-day wonder tribulation saints, but he will use his saints. The Holy Spirit will not be taken out of the world, for how else shall the two witnesses prophesy against the Antichrist? So no, I'll say there will be no rapture August 4th, 2024 at 9 a.m. at any time. There will be no rapture at that time, nor at any time until the end of the tribulation, when we shall have finished our testimony. And then the Spirit of life from God shall enter into the dead in Christ, who must rise first. The dead in Christ must rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them to meet the Lord in the air, just as he said in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. But again, I would repeat, that is about the resurrection. The dead rise first, and then we which are alive are transfigured, much as Jesus was on the Mount of Transfiguration. And caught up, well, he wasn't caught up at that time, but he was transfigured. And later on, when they saw him, he was transfigured. After his, I don't remember if he was transfigured as ascension. He went up to heaven in a cloud. Anyways. So no, the rapture will not come on August 4th, but I'll definitely be watching for it not to come. So, anyways, thanks for joining me. I wish you were still there to respond. I answered the question. I should have said I answer questions at the end. They already appeared. Well, the first mark was COVID-19. Again, I think that was just a prelim. That was a little warning. It's a type for sure. But I could point to other things, like I said, Hitler. Why wasn't that the first mark? Oh, we're the Nazi insignia and Heil Hitler, right? That's a mark of the beast. and it's not the mark of the beast, but it's the same kind of thing. And they all have their culmination in this ultimate mark of the beast that's coming. And if we think we're just going to like not face it, I'm telling you, like I said, that's what people think they're going to be raptured away. And that's what I think leads to a lot of the Christian decadence in America, because we think the most important thing is we get to the beginning of the tribulation so we can leave. So we do weird things like support Israel and their genocide against Gaza. Like that's the fact that Christians support that is a travesty. And, and that's what tells me, like, yeah, I know why we're not going anywhere, and we all think we are. That's the perfect setup. So many American Christians think they're not going to be here for the tribulation, but even if it isn't the tribulation, there is a tribulation that is coming, America, for you, okay, and for me, because I'm part of it. We have a tribulation coming, okay? Even if it isn't the final tribulation, we got tribulation, because we think we can just approve of all kinds of fire from heaven wonders. The wonder of the power of the beast to tread people underfoot. We wonder at that power and say, let's make more of that power. Let's spread that power. Let's make an image to that power. Let's follow that narrative to its conclusion. We are not wise. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Look forward to being back again tomorrow. I probably would have kept going, except I almost feel like going on, but we came to the end of the chapter, and I think we'll pick up chapter 14 fresh tomorrow. Until then, remember the testimony of Jesus. Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and he is the fulfillment of the law.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he uses all the power of the first beast, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. And into a great one